Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Get 'em Out, the Monster's Den. That's right, we are back. Horror, monster, sci-fi, fantasy talk once again. Today we're going to talk about some cool boutique labels that release some really cool Blu-rays and 4Ks. But before we do that, let me introduce the crew. We got Jamie Laszlo is here to my left of the Zoom. Down below me is Mr. Dan Brown. Davey Gallagher is down there somewhere as well, all the way from Scotland. Down at the bottom here, he's wheeling, he's dealing. Mr. Craig Kaminsky. And the king himself, Chris Allo, is here as well. What's going on, gentlemen?
How you doing?
Fellas.
Well, good.
Hello
We're
there.
good. So we're talking boutique labels. We've talked about doing an episode like this for a while. If you've been following the Monsters, then you know we show off all sorts of stuff all the time, physical product, Blu-ray sets, 4K sets, all this kind of stuff. That have some come with posters and some come with cards and all special editions, multi-disc sets, all sorts of craziness. So we figured we would spotlight a few of them today, some of our favorites. So we've each picked one particular boutique label to just give a little introduction to what they're all about, and we picked out maybe our three favorite releases that they have or something like that, right? You probably heard us talk about these films before. We're not going to go in depth talk about movies tonight. It's more like this is a cool set if you're looking to explore this label. They released this. Here's why it's cool, that sort of thing. So, Mr. Craig,
All right.
the guy who's so new to all the physical stuff, we're going to put him on the spot first and talk about the label that you chose and the couple of highlights that you'll bring about.
Yeah, I have three. So as has been mentioned in some of the more recent episodes, I have a burgeoning 4K collection, and what I've noted, I've gotten a bunch of thing releases from probably the many of the labels that you guys are also going to talk about. But I actually, from my counts, the one that I have the most of is the one that I'm talking about, and that is from Arrow, out of the ones that I have. And so I have more than three, luckily, so I didn't just grab, I wasn't able to just grab the three that I did have. But what I love about them, and my first example is a sort of guilty pleasure of mine, The Last Starfighter from 1985. Uh, Great transfer, and just all of these that I have. What I love most about them is chock full of stuff. A lot of supplemental features and interviews and um, commentaries and documentaries and such. But probably with the exception of the one that's my last pick of the three that I have, what I love most about these is that, and I think Chris might back me up on this too, everything is on one disc. I don't have to get up and flip the goddamn thing, and put the bonus features are on the Blu-ray or whatever. With all these, except for the one that I have here, everything is crammed onto one nice disc, and even though there's lots and lots of bonus features on all these. So Last Starfighter was my first selection. My second one, again, from the 80s, and it just looks beautiful. I went with Flash Gordon, just with all the bonus features that are on this, and documentaries and making of, and talking with a lot of the principal actors who are still with us. Sam Jones, Melody Anderson, Brian Blessed, Brian May from Queen. There's a documentary on here about Nicholas Rogue, about a version that he was going to do but did not, and uh, Mike Hodges interviews the director of the movie. So I mean, just so many bonus features on this, and besides the fact that the movie itself looks so bright and colorful, all the reds and golds and greens when they go to Arborea. A lot of these older movies, when they're done right, and really the ones that I have, at least from Arrow, are done so well, they just pop when you have them on your nice TV. And my number one, how could I not pick this? Was the reason I even went out and bought mine was, of course, what you guys all have it too, Conan the Barbarian. Just giant set. This one actually does have to break it onto onto two different discs because of all the extra stuff that's on this, but three versions of the movie. Uh, Dolby Atmos soundtrack when it was before it was just in mono. I mean, when you have it on now, thundering through, you can feel the horses, thundering through your window in your room as you're watching this, and all the extra features on this. Some of it's archival with the commentaries and the behind the scenes footage and everything, but then they also have some new interviews uh, with some tertiary cast members and everything. So it's really just a great feature. Poster, huge booklet filled with pictures and facts and whatnot on the movie. So just a great set from them. So of the Arrow discs that I have, these are, RoboCop's another one. That's another fantastic example. And again, one disc. Everything's all on one disc. People like Chris and I, we don't feel like getting up and flipping that goddamn thing over. If we want to watch a movie or I want to watch the interview, I just hit a few buttons and there it is. So Arrow was my pick, and those were my examples.
Yeah, Arrow, I have a ton of Arrow stuff, and I think for many years they kind of were my favorite of these boutique labels because they not only have they released a lot of just great films, but their packaging is just so insanely good. And what I like about them too, and Davey's talked about this a bunch of times, is like, they oftentimes they'll have like a kind of like, again, I don't know exactly what they call, but they'll have like a super deluxe version of something which has a big thick book and all this other stuff. But then if you don't want all that, they
Yeah.
have a slightly less expensive one that still has a lot of the special features and some of the bells and whistles, but not like,
And reversible art,
yeah,
like
100%.
Flash Gordon uh, or this the probably more familiar theatrical poster
Yeah.
on the flip side. So just really well done uh, packaging from the people at Arrow.
So Arrow moved into America, what, about 2017, something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But they've been going for a long time in the UK. I mean, I posted a picture when Severn announced their Russ Meyer releases that are upcoming. I posted my old Arrow DVDs, and those are from 2004, before there was Arrow Video and it was just Arrow Films. I've got a slight quibble with them now, but it's good for Craig. It's just for people like me that have been with them with Arrow Video for 14 years since that started, but with Arrow in general for 20 odd years, in that it's a lot of upgrades now. Arrow announcements used to be, oh my God, the Arrow announcements are this Friday. Now it tends to be maybe one thing every couple of months, whereas it used to be, oh, I'm going to have to buy everything this month. They're not as exciting in terms of pickups and acquisitions. And again, that's a lot of, like we've touched on in different shows, acquisitions and mergers between the big companies, Disney not, having the Fox license and whatnot, Paramount not releasing a lot of things, although they do release more in America under the Arrow label. So it's a bit less exciting than it used to be. But as Craig said, for somebody that's getting into 4K who didn't get to Blu-ray, it's amazing
Yeah.
because you're getting them all. You're getting them all at once.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
for some of us, we only bought them 2 or 3 years ago, especially the Daddy Argentos. There wasn't even a 2 year gap between the deluxe Blu-rays and the 4Ks. There wasn't even 2 years.
Apple was the first company to put out the Mario Bava films, to put out actually uh Day Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead.
Yes, the only company
They're
that's
all
got Day of the
region
Dead
two.
anyway, yeah.
They were region two, and then they opened up the US thing, but they had stuff on for a number of years, and they had a great packaging, and they were pretty much the top of their game at that point. But then they were bought out by somebody, right, Davey?
The Hut
Yeah.
Group who owns Zavi, and a lot of the original guys left. Fran Simeone, who was pretty much the head honcho there, the guy who had real film tastes, set up his own label, who could be talked about today. We're not going to, but they're a wonderful label called Radiance,
Mm-hmm.
who release a lot of great stuff. So Fran's out there doing his own thing because he couldn't get it done with Arrow anymore. But for somebody with taste like Craig, I'd say they're just a perfect label for somebody like Craig who loves the great 80s cult movies they're just going to satisfy you every single month with the best possible presentation.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Cool. All right, Chris, what did you pick?
My pick for boutique label was Vinegar Syndrome. I have strong connections to the Vinegar Syndrome label. Um, I started years back when I was doing my Hudson Horror Show, which was a 35 millimeter film festival in Poughkeepsie. I first met the Vinegar Syndrome guys because I invited them to be a vendor at my show. And I basically just traded vendor space with them, and they would come to my show. I don't know if Dan remembers, and they would sell. They didn't even have Blu-rays yet. They were only selling DVDs, and they gave me a bunch of free DVDs, and they sold them to my audience, and we did that for years. And they were great guys. I got to know them, and their product is just great. I mean, they put out awesome packaging. They do great transfers and tons of extras. I have a ton of their products, and they're also not far from the Hudson Valley. The guys in Vinegar Syndrome have a awesome 3 or 4 level record store called the Archive in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Excuse me. And if anybody's in the area, it's absolutely worth checking out because it's 3 or 4 levels of records, CDs, action figures, Blu-rays, soundtrack albums, movie posters, books. It's literally like going to a horror movie convention, but in a store. So it's definitely worthwhile. And yeah, the products they put out are pretty impressive. My favorites, the first one is a favorite because I'm on it. And this is Spookies. This is my autographed copy of the Spookies Blu-ray. It is a double disc, double-sided sleeve, and of course a slipcover, Pete, that you got to hold on to. And this
I
is
have
great.
mine. I have mine.
I did get it autographed, and long story short, yeah, my good friends Glenn Baisley and Michael Gingold did an awesome 90-minute documentary on here called Twisted Souls: The Unmaking of Spookies, in which we've had those guys on the show to talk about it. But I am an extra on here because in 2015 I ran a 35 millimeter double feature at the Alamo Draft House of Spookies and the Toolbox Murders. And I had a couple cast members from Spookies, Peter Iasillo and Anthony Valbero, who came to the screening, introduced it, and did a Q&A. And my buddy Glenn Baisley filmed it, not knowing that, 9 years later, he was going to be doing a full-length documentary and Blu-ray on Spookies. And he put my entire Q&A segment on this Blu-ray. So it's pretty cool that I have a dream and I am an actual extra on a Blu-ray.
You're actually more than an extra, though.
Yeah, I got turned on to Vinegar Syndrome at Chris's shows.
See,
Actually, and I visit Brandon from Vinegar Syndrome is at the show at the theater twice a year. I see him twice a year there. Every so often I'll drive up because it's about an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what it's about me, about an hour and 10.
It's worth the trip. And their used DVD section, before they expanded it, and they remodeled the whole thing. It wasn't like going to the Salvation Army or like a used place. People are going there if you notice, Chris, when they're trading their stuff in.
Excellent
point. Trading in top-notch Blu-ray stuff because they're going to get 4K. So you're finding a lot of obscure stuff in their place that you wouldn't see in any other particular show.
100%. Because what happens is people come in and they sell discs from all the boutique labels from around the world. So yeah, Dan's 100% right. People buy Spookies or whatever, bring it home and watch it and go, I don't like it. And they bring it back and exchange it for credit. So their used section is amazing.
I drove Brendan up for the screening or the signing one time, and I ended up spending $400 down in the store. I kept going down there, and they gave me a discount. Then on top of that, they gade me, it was sale going on. So I was like, this trip was 50 miles away. It cost me like $450.
I
So,
always,
you
I
know,
always love ordering from them. They've got that wonderful tape that looks like film reels, which wraps up your
Yes.
boxes. That's great.
Yep.
Every time that comes with the DHL guy, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, there's going to be something good in here."
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing to mention about them, they have an identity. They do a lot of sleazy stuff, a lot of 70s stuff, a lot of giallo, but they have perhaps the most diverse thing we can talk about, which is their partner label section,
mhm.
which they've been building and building over the past couple of years. So if somebody doesn't like, say, I don't know, the Camille Keaton box set that they've got, there's a whole section of partner labels that have got completely different identities. From Mezzanine, who do the more hardcore porn stuff, to Deaf Crocodile, to Umbrella, who do like Australian exploitation stuff. And you can find children's stuff. You can find absolutely anything in the partner section. They must release 50 things a month if you add the partner labels to Vinegar Syndrome's own
It's
stuff.
They
it's
have over
impossible to keep up
500
with it.
titles
It's
they deal with.
crazy. Yeah.
And they
And
So
they,
release
the-
and they
around-
send you free stuff too, usually when you do your orders. I mean, I've ordered from them a handful of times. I'd gotten this Sweet Sugar comic book,
Nice.
that they gave along, which is very cool and nice and graphic and such. So
No, I want a Sweet Sugar comic book.
really.
you may
Your
save
order wasn't big enough, Chris.
I guess not.
I mean, they did release Malibu High, so points off for that. But
Oh,
no, cheap shot.
Oh.
But generally speaking, they're a perfect label for someone who likes Chris's kind of movies, just like Craig said. They're really about his kind of movies.
Oh.
For somebody like Craig, for Chris, it's
Lord,
perfect.
too.
yeah, they do a lot of trash, which like Malibu High, which yeah,
Trash
I'm
is
quite
good.
quite fond of the trash.
Trash needs a home.
Absolutely, yeah, and they do.
Yeah, and
They use 100% right. They do run the gamut of the amount of titles is unbelievable. This one, the packaging is insane, and the story behind it is even more insane. And I heard all the stories because my good friends Glenn Baisley and Mike Ingold did some of the behind the scenes featurettes on this movie, and this also is something. I have not, of all the boutique labels out there, I've never heard of another company doing this. And this particular movie is New York Ninja. So it comes with this crazy box with the pull-out. Yeah, if I can figure it out. Oh yeah. So it slides open. Then you've got the thing here, the tab. You pull it out. It's got a book, the Blu-ray, which of course has another slipcover that you need. And then, then it's double-sided, 2 discs. But the thing that is absolutely insane with this, and I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this movie.
Yes.
Of course, it was shot in New York. But yeah, Vinegar Syndrome all the time buys just pallets of film. And they got a pallet of film and started looking at it and realized it was an unreleased movie called New York Ninja. But when they looked at it, they had nothing to go by and there was no sound. So they had to look at the footage. I mean, they explain everything on the documentary on the actual disc. But Vinegar Syndrome, as a company, they had to restore the footage, cut it together, and then hire actors to do and write a script. They had to hire somebody to write a script and basically create a movie, create a full soundtrack, a music score, sound effects, and dialogue to go over this footage that they had, which was this movie that was never released. And they tried to track down a script and actors, and it didn't work. So the movie is fucking pretty insane. It's basically like a wacky trauma movie, but with better boobs. At least this is one really part. But yeah, New York Ninja. And then my last one, and this is just a favorite of mine. This is a cult movie that I had on DVD. I still have 2 versions of, but they did a 4-disc set. And this is Thriller, a.k.a. They Call Her One Eye. So 2 4Ks and 2 Blu-rays in a deluxe box with 2 slipcovers. And it's what I like is that it does have both versions of the movie Thriller, which has the X-rated scenes in it, which are really totally useless, and they call her One Eye, which is the trimmed U.S. version, which I think is actually the preferred version. You're only missing the porn inserts, but again, tons of extras. The movie looks unbelievable, and this was a dream release for me, and I was really glad that Vinegar Syndrome got the rights and put it together. So
Now, of course, if you remember, when they first announced that was coming out, I think it was at Severn or
yes, there was.
Severn announced it, and I pre-ordered it and got it, and then it got like they fulfilled some orders, but then it got pulled, and then Film announced a couple months later that they were putting it out. That was the official release on it. So I have the original, but with
I wonder though, Pete, if that's like a collector's thing now. If some people,
So there's a few Severn titles that are.
Yes, I just thought it was it Four Flies on Grey Velvet?
Four Flies, which I ordered just because it was fucking Four Flies the day it came up. And then all of a sudden you find out there's a massive legal battle going on, and they announced it on a Friday night so that no lawyers would be able to serve them a writ until the Monday morning, and they can just get a whole weekend of orders in. It's nuts.
Nuts.
Crazy.
I think Thriller showed up on a label called Synapse at one point too.
Yeah, and Synapse are great.
Yes, I believe that was the original DVD from way back when. Yeah,
it's very hard.
There was no Blu-ray. They did the DVDs separately, and I think Dan's right. Those were Synapse in the 90s.
And those ones that Chris is showing there they're the VSAs, I think, aren't they, or the VSUs? Where they're Vinegar Syndrome archive releases and they're numbered on the top, or they've got VSU on them. There's one or the other. So there's about 4 sub-labels of Vinegar Syndrome.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
No, Vinegar Syndrome.
VSU, VSA.
Baby, I can't see shit without my glasses.
Vinegar Syndrome is.
I'm useless without my glasses. But yeah, I mean, a hell of a label, and something for everybody.
And Vinegar Syndrome has also cut deals with the MGM library.
Sure, yeah, they did Roadhouse, right? Not that long ago.
Yeah,
Universal Pictures to put out obscure Universal horror films.
So I mean, they've got millions of. I mean, they've been moved over to Mesuline now, but millions of hardcore films.
Yes.
But then on the same day, they would release Reptilicus on 4K.
Well, they started as hardcore porno. They were doing porno. Yeah, that was their main.
They've never stopped really.
No, they never have.
And bless them for it, because they treat it the way that it should be as a film.
Absolutely.
It gets extras. It gets commentary.
They were films, people forget.
And a lot of them grossed a lot more.
Just rented back in the day. You had to go to a movie theater to see an actual porno movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
And have a shower afterwards.
8mm film, whatever.
Yeah.
Or Show World with your token.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Jamie.
All right. I picked Criterion, and what I did is like 3 categories instead of 3 movies. And it's kind of like inside the actor studio here with my stack of, instead of cards, questions on them, I got Criterion discs. I'm going to start with, first of all, I would like to say that if you've probably seen it on YouTube, the Criterion closet pics where they get like a celebrity and they throw them in the closet. I don't know what the closet is, if it's like a little trailer on the back of a pickup that they drive around. I don't know what it is.
You know what it is?
They were in New York City, like
just in their New York office.
Yeah, and it's like a small trailer.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine went. I don't know if Dan had any interest, but he had messaged me and he said, because it was a really good sale, but he was like, yeah, the deal was you had to get on this huge line, and it was a 6-hour wait to get into the truck. I'm like, dude, I don't care how fucking cheap they are. I'm not waiting 6 hours to buy cheap movies.
No. Especially with Criterion fans.
Yeah, and I've got
the one in front of you and the one behind you.
But Jamie, tell us your categories.
Well, but I think it's great advertising gimmick, because it's kind of like the Amoeba Records What's in My Bag. You watch that and you're like, I want to go to Amoeba. You watch these closet pics, and what do you think? You want to open up another browser and start buying these movies that they're talking about. Oh, I've never seen that one. I should buy it. I should check it out. It's great. for them and entertaining for us. My three categories is horror, the first one. So my very first one I ever bought is Repulsion. And I got it in the mail, and I didn't know, I was wet behind the ears 4 years ago or something like that. And I didn't know that the cases looked like this. So I was like, well, that's a fancy dancy case. Why did they do all this just for this movie? I didn't know all the Criterion boxes were like that until I got my second one. But I love this movie, love it to death. I actually watched all the extras on this one. I don't always watch all the extras. I'm getting better at it the last 3 or 4 months. But the thing is, I gotta watch them right after I watch the movie.
It's a
Or
time
maybe the
investment,
next
and you
morning.
have to do it at that.
Yeah, or maybe the next morning while the case is still laying out, I'll throw it in. But once it goes back on the shelf, I'm not likely gonna pull it back out just to watch the extras. So I'm trying to do it more often though. My next one is the first two. The first time I ever spent too much money on an out of print one. Also by Polanski, Rosemary's Baby. And the thing is, I just looked on my eBay buyers history. I only spent $60 on it. But at the time, I was going, Laszlo, what are you doing spending $60 on a movie? 4 years later, 3.5 years later, that doesn't seem as crazy anymore because of the other things I've bought since. But yeah, love both of these movies. It's part of the two of the three apartment trilogies that Polanski has. And if you watch the rape scenes in both of them, my goodness, they are so similar. With the devil here and the imaginary guy here, you got the ticking of the clock and silence going on. Very similar.
I can't do it, Jamie. Polanski and rape is too close to home, and
I know. Too soon. Then you
Guy's
got
a
these fancy
fucking
ones.
asshole.
Two similar ones here. The Innocents, which looks great.
Yeah.
And the others, which isn't even opened yet. The problem is that I watched it recently, then it came out on 4K and I bought it. And I was like, well, on down the line.
You're going
In
to
a year
enjoy
or
that.
two,
It's
I'll
a
open it.
great 4K. It's really good.
Cool. Eyes Without a Face. See, when you get horror with Criterion, you're going to get the upscale horror.
Yeah.
You're not getting New York Ninja from Criterion.
You're not going to get that.
No.
You're going to get Diabolique, which is kind of horror. And then
It's
you know,
definitely
even like Antichrist, which has the most disturbing scene I've ever seen in any movie.
Oh God.
Put it on Criterion.
Oh,
we
fuck.
haven't forgotten that episode. We know.
You put that on Criterion,
Oh,
or you
I
put the
saw that. I
Brood.
saw that in the cinema, and the guy walked out.
Oh,
And you
I
don't
wouldn't want
need to
that
ask.
scene.
Yeah, you don't need to ask which scene made him walk out. That
Oh.
scene made him walk out.
And you know it's fake. You know it's made out of whatever, but still hard to watch. In The Brood, you're like, is that a classy horror movie? Once it goes on Criterion, it kind of is for some reason. Magically becomes classy. And even when they get like a public domain movie, like Night of the Living Dead, I had this cheap DVD that I bought like at a dollar store 25 years ago. They release it and it becomes special again. It becomes like a special release again. It's not public domain, it's Criterion. The 4K on this, man, one of the best 4K discs I own look wise. And then my second, because this one has an embarrassing story at the end, is Hitchcock. They have a lot of early Hitchcock up to 1946, I think, that I could tell. I think they had some on DVD that they never released on Blu-ray. But The Lodger, which is the only silent movie I've ever seen by Hitchcock. And then you got Rebecca. That's a 2-disc set. Rebecca is a great, cool little movie. And then, man, the more time goes on, the more this keeps going up. Notorious.
Oh,
Oh,
great.
I mean, top three. My top three is always, but this is I haven't even watched this yet. But I've been digging back into Hitchcock lately, so this is coming up soon. And here's the embarrassing thing. So they have Lady Vanishes, Foreign Correspondent, The Man Who Knew Too Much, and 39 Steps. You can buy these right now for $20 each. So right there is $80, right? This is when the curse is real to the highest fucking degree. $80 right there. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Go buy them. Put them in this fucking thing here. Oh, it's out of print. This is out of print. Now you can't get it anywhere magically. $150 now on eBay out of print. 80? 150. Did I spend 150 on it for the fucking paper cardboard box? I did. I don't know why. I had money to blow back then. I didn't have a car payment. I was like, fuck it. The hell with it. So yeah, that's when things get a little silly. But it
So a
does
bit
look
like
cool.
we were discussing recently in the group chat that that is the MGM use for Hitchcock.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yes.
there's so much confusion as to, what. So why is Psycho not in the collection? Well, because it's a Universal film, so it's not available.
I figured there
Um,
was some kind of reason. I was like, is this all like this British movies? No, there's a couple Hollywood movies there.
yeah, well, he moved to Hollywood in 1940. His first one was Foreign Correspondent or Rebecca, same
Rebecca,
year,
then foreign
same
correspondent.
year,
But Criterion
1940.
in the 80s, and they're the old dog. They've been around since the 80s, VHS tapes for that matter. And then
Well,
Right.
Laserdisc first. Their
yeah,
first Laserdisc was
Uh,
1982.
and then they had also put out some of the Hitchcocks from the 30s, Secret Agent, Young and Innocent, all these British films from the 30s, and they never re-released them again. And they've been restored at least in 1980 standards. But Criterion is like that's like the New York Times of newspapers as far as with things. They've been around. They're old school, and that's why they have this prestige thing with them. Like I said, what goes on Criterion, it becomes artsy. But they always do director more towards directors and more towards art films.
Yeah.
Right.
And actually it was Romero's idea to go with Criterion, and well, not Romero and the rest to go with Criterion because they felt that was fitting of what they should do.
I
And
think they're an interesting label because they used to be the gold standards for home releases. And I think they've been not just caught up but lapped by a lot of companies now,
Mhm.
where a lot of companies have found a niche and now they give better treatment to different films than Criterion do. Criterion's booklets a lot of the time now are that thin newspaper stuff that only, a couple of pages instead of a 60-page book. Sometimes it just doesn't feel like they've got the effort put into them that they used to do. It really doesn't. They used to produce epics. You'd get the novels included if it was an adaptation, that kind of thing, which they just don't do anymore. They've kind of cut a lot of costs.
Yes.
But the good thing is they can take a lot of chances because they're owned by a billionaire. So they're not a label where, oh, you need to support them, guys, or they might go out of business. They are loaded.
Well, the one thing that I wanted to add, and I don't know about this if it particularly pertains to Criterion, but I know for a fact it affects Arrow and Vinegar Syndrome and some of the other labels because my buddy Glenn, he works for all these labels doing behind the scenes featurettes for all of them. And, he is a professional, so there is a budget for these behind the scenes features, and he does get paid. But as time has gone on, the pay scale keeps getting scaled back from these companies. And he keeps telling me all the time how companies like Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow are like, well, listen, we were going to pay you $1,000 for this behind the scenes featurette, but Davey Gallagher, he'll do it for free because there's guys now that are up and coming and they're out of college and they want the editing work and they want to just get their name out there. So now there's all these people that are willing to do the work now for free. So the budgets seem to me, according to Glenn, overall the budgets keep shrinking, but the labels are trying to still pack as much features and quality into it as possible, but by spending a little less money. And I don't know
And
if that has to do with sales are less than they were some years ago,
well,
which
you
I
have
would
to factor
imagine
that in, right? Because the physical market's shrinking a little bit. So
100%.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of
Although I think eh, I'm not going to name any names because quite a few of them are friends of mine on Facebook, but a lot of the regular contributors to a lot of Blu-ray boutiques, they're a little bit cheaty, where they get an assignment and then do the homework rather than be an expert who gets approached because they love that film or that director or that actor. They're reliable and they turn in work on time, so they get approached and then they do the homework.
They don't want to
which
give up a job opportunity, so they
Sure.
yeah, and I know that because one of them recently borrowed quite a few of my Franco Nero Blu-rays because he didn't know about Franco Nero, and now he's going to write a booklet about Franco fucking Nero.
Oh Jesus.
Now, that's not, that's the tail wagging the dog a little bit, isn't it?
Surprised you let them borrow it.
Well, just
It,
just
it
like
doesn't watch. It doesn't watch this. Sorry, Sam. But yeah. So there's a lot of that goes on, and there's a lot of the same names across the labels. As Chris was saying there, you'll start to pick up. If there's a feminist one, it will be by Andrea Heller, or I can't remember her name, but there's two women who always do the same kind of feminist takes on documentaries. And Chris is right as well. A lot of them have been usurped by the rise of the video essay on YouTube, where you can watch a 25-minute documentary about the making of a film, complete with clips and voiceover, by someone who really knows their stuff without buying the disc. You can do that for any film these days.
Yeah, I'm gonna get there in a second. My third category is non-genre because Criterion does a lot of dramas and a lot of things like that. I recently got the 4K of a movie that almost got me thrown off the Monsters Den on like my third appearance, and that is Happiness. One thing I do not like about Criterion is that the 4Ks and the regular Blu-ray cases look the same. So it's very easy to pick up a Blu-ray, maybe thinking it's the 4K or vice versa.
Yeah,
I
because I
think
bought that and then you didn't realize it was on 4K
so.
when
I bought it. Yeah, I bought it on Blu-ray, and then I saw Davey posted it on 4K. I'm like, oh, I got that ain't gonna work, knowing there's a 4K out there. So I was thinking, all right, I bought the 4K. I had some bonus Amazon points, so I got it for like $15. And then I had the Blu-ray. I'm like, I'm gonna go up the street and trade it in because they got Criterions up there sometimes used. And I traded it in, and I got the Furies as a
Oh, I
even
love that film.
swap.
Oh, I love it.
Even swap. So I got this, and I think I made out. And what I like about this, and I'm catching up on old Westerns. What I like about it is
You get the
it comes with a
novelization in that
book.
one. Yeah, you get the
You can
novelization,
read
like I was
along
saying.
with the movie. And what's amazing is the movie's got a lot of characters. It's pretty involving. The book is like big print and small pages. It's almost like a children's book. I'm thinking, how do they fit that dense movie into this children's book? I'm surprised there's not pictures in here. But I thought that was cool. And the movie is cool.
Has everybody else seen The Furies, the Western with Barbara Stanwyck?
Yes,
It's
Barbara
amazing.
Stanwyck being all
She
kinds
is
of sassy in
she
it.
is oh she's not just sassy, she's so fucking badass.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend gets hung or hanged, and I mean, they use a racial slur to describe him. He's a Native American, and she's talking to her kind of stepfather figure, who's the guy that's done it. And she gives him the most badass threat ever. She says something like, "You made a mistake, TC. You hung him. You should have hung me. Because next time you see me, I'm going to take your whole world away from you." Oh, she's fucking badass in that movie.
Um, so it's almost December, then it's January, then it's February. Before you know it, Valentine's Days. If you guys want to do your wives a favor,
Happiness.
sit down with them and watch one of the best trilogies ever made.
Oh, not the Before trilogy, fuck.
The before trilogies,
Oh.
man, are fucking awesome. All it is Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy walking around talking. And somehow
You
it's
do love the
entertaining
90s, Jamie. You
as
do love the
well.
90s.
And they make one every 10 years. Was it like 95 and
Yeah.
2004, 2006, and then 2016? And they're older in each one, and they make that work into it. They're 10 years into the relationship, now 20 years into the relationship. I think they're going to make a fourth one. I hope they keep going until they're in an old age home, because I watched every single one. I think the third one is the least good one, but still really good. I mean, I don't know.
A happy couple walking around, huh?
Yeah.
Boy, woo.
Well, they have some ups and
Chemistry.
downs.
Pete, I think I'm going to pass on that one.
So much chemistry. Out the
It's a shocker, I know.
No, I'll be honest. The
They're
first two
shocking.
films are pretty fantastic, but
See,
they are the epitome of a not for Chris Allo film.
Oh yeah, not for Chris.
see, Chris is making
They're on a
Twilight.
moving train in the
Making
one, right?
Twilight look
Twilight
pretty
sounds
decent
pretty
right now.
good compared to that one, Dan. I gotta tell you.
That's it. Twilight's not so bad now.
No, it's true.
And I want to say this director's name right. Vittorio De Sica.
Vittoria De Sica.
Sica. There you go.
Oh yeah.
You got Bicycle Thieves. You need some of this. You got to make your movie collection a film collection as well. And Umbretto D. And you get these like neo-realism about poor people in poor situations. They got a lot of heart to them. And then I also like the Virgin Spring, which is you could say Last House on the
I was gonna
Left
say,
is
yeah,
a
the
remake.
inspiration for Last House on the Left.
Yeah, inspiration or a remake or a loose remake. So Ingmar Bergman, he did this movie, and I always wanted to see The Seventh Seal. Just one of those movies. I'm like, I got to get around to it. And I was shopping for it. I went on Amazon. I was like, okay, Seventh Seal. I saw it for $24. And then I went down a little bit more, and I saw it for basically $3.80. The thing is, on Blu-ray, you had to buy 38 other of his movies for $3.80. So you got 39 movies for $150 of all his movies. And I'm thinking, hell with it. I'll do it. And I'm thinking it'll be like, like
It's a massive
like
box
this.
set.
Something like this, like the new All the Haunts BRs box set I got. It'll be about this size. So Ingmar comes into my mail, and I'm like, first of all, this thing is about 20 pounds.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's 20 freaking pounds at least. And it comes with this gigantic book, pictures and everything, and like 39, 40 discs. Well, there's two versions of one movie. The TV version that's like 297 minutes long, that is Scenes from a Marriage, and then you got Scenes from a Marriage US theatrical version, which is only 160 minutes long, but there it all is. The Seventh Seal isn't in there because I've been watching it the last couple days. I watched it last night, and I'm like, I need to watch this with the commentary so I know what the fuck is going on. So I watched it with the commentary again today, and I get the movie. And then I watched, like Davey was saying, YouTube videos of guys with the voiceovers and stuff. And one guy actually compared it to Woody Allen's Hannah and his sisters. I'm like, yeah, I see that with all the religion and everything. And I think I enjoyed watching people explain the movie to me more than I liked watching the actual movie.
Well, if you've
I
seen
respect
if you've
the movie.
seen Interiors, that's just Woody Allen's version of an Ingmar Bergman movie.
Okay.
And he's cast quite a lot of the same actors who were in Bergman's films as well. But do you know the really sad part, Jamie, that I'm about to distress you with? That is not the complete Ingmar Bergman. You still need about 5 movies on top of that.
Oh, I know it's not the complete, but it's a lot. I mean, this is film school in a box right here, pretty much. Especially with all the commentary that you're going to get.
There's
So
a kind of running
this will-
joke that a lot of the film snob videos that you see on YouTube,
yeah.
behind them you will see that box set.
Ah,
Next to you will see on their shelf to kind of show their credentials at the start of the video. And you'll see the Agnes Varda box set. You'll see the Essential Fellini box set.
oh, this
see
is
the-
going behind me on that shelf, Davey. From now
So
on, my
but
top.
always this exact order. So it's Fellini, Bergman, Agnes Varda. Sometimes the Godzilla shit shows up, but it's all the Criterion big epic box sets. They did one of the complete
Don't
Olympics.
fit anywhere on the shelf, right? Like that Godzilla.
Yeah.
Oh man, I
Oh
fucking
yeah,
I hate
I
that
did
box
find a
set.
weird spot for it, and I found a
Always
spot
moving
for this too on the floor. So yeah, this will last me. This and like the folk horror box sets that I have last me until I'm in my 60s.
Yeah,
'Cause
wow.
I don't watch these one after another.
Oh, don't do that with Bergman. You want to kill yourself.
Yeah, I know. My collection is becoming like a Blockbuster Video almost. Like, what should I rent today that I haven't seen before? Which is kind of cool how I like it. So
Except when you have stuff that you forgot that you have and you go years without watching it. That's like, yeah.
Or you buy it again.
Or you buy it again. Yeah.
Bingo.
Seen that.
That's
How
it,
did
because
you get
they've
that?
already
I have this?
they've already upgraded about half of that box set to 4K. So how long before we get the 4K version? I mean, it's for fuck's sake. And you never get, hey,
I just
send us
got
that
North
one.
by Northwest today in 4K.
Yeah. Although, I mean, to be fair to Criterion, sitting next to me is one of my favorite films, but what an addition. Criterion's new Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, by Sam Peckinpah. And that's never even been on Blu-ray. And here it is on 4K now, 4K and Blu-ray, in three different cuts.
I
So we go from nothing but an old DVD from 2004 to a 4K in 2024. Stunning stuff.
I will say, even though when things go on to 4K, if you have the Criterion, Pan's Labyrinth, I got the, Criterion, and then I got the 4K. You still don't get rid of your Criterion because it's a Criterion. Keep it.
Cool. All right, Mr. Dan.
Hey, well, just add somebody to the two guys that they said before. We talk about Vinegar Syndrome and all the stuff that they've done. They only came in business in 2012. They've only been in business for 12 years and they've accomplished a lot. Criterion's been in business for over 40 years. My pick, as far as in a label, is Severn. And what I like about Severn Films is that they will take the bottom of the barrel. They will take the lower ebb of filmmaking and give them box sets to people that are far larger than the budgets they used on their films. And they just do a spectacular job on it. But they started out in 2006, and the owner of the company is a big fan of Island of Lost Souls and Island of Dr. Moreau. So one of the first things they actually put together in 2006 was a documentary called,
Really good.
Lost Souls.
Yeah, Lost Souls. Yeah.
Fantastic and I'm recommending this as one of my picks. Great documentary about the making of the madness of the 1996 Island of Lost Souls, or Island of Dr. Moreau, where they took Richard Stanley, who was an up and coming, independent director, and they threw him in a big budget film with two of the biggest egos at that time, either Marlon Brando, who was just being a prick for a big check, and Val Kilmer, who was just being a prick in general. And he got stuck in the middle of us, lost his mind, ran into the jungle, was living with a tribe. They snuck him back on set. The whole making of the film is just fantastic. Now, the interesting thing about this, stepping into the boutique label business, is that this is a 3-disc set. And it came with the documentary. The second documentary is about H.G. Wells, interviews with H.G. Wells, also with a 1921 recently discovered version of Island of Lost Souls, or Island of Dr. Moreau, from Germany, they put on here. And then finally, they have Richard Stanley reading Island of Lost Souls, or, Island of Dr. Moreau, like an audiobook. But this is the thing that started them off. And they've always done a great job, whether it be with putting in some deluxe things. I mean, Parita Taranga, which is, a wild, off the wall, like modern Western with Javier Bardem, Rosie Perez, James Gandolfini. I mean, it's just totally bonkers. Had been released earlier under another title on a very obscure, like Artisan, or one of those small labels in the U.S. I mean, Night of the Demon, the notorious, Let's Have the
That's a
Sasquatch. I'm
classic.
sorry, I got the stupid.
Yeah.
I can't.
Unfortunately, it's not the good Night of the Demon, but oh well.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
this-
great Night of the Demon.
Yeah.
This is the ripping
Fucking bollocks.
ripping the penis off, which is always a crowd pleaser in the
The two Girl Scouts stabbing each other with the
And
pocket knives.
then there's Night of the Demons, just to confuse things even
That's
further.
true. That's true.
Nosferatu in Venice, which had been put out by Anchor Bay, another originally started as a boutique label when they started bringing in some of the Hammer films. And this was released at one point on Anchor Bay. They give it a night.
Dan, we have to mention about Vampire. Have you watched all the extras on that, Dan?
Yes.
Right, we all knew Klaus Kinski was a fucking nutcase.
Oh, nutcase. No.
In the extras there, they go into the really dark stuff trying to rape actresses on the set and
Oh
stuff.
no, he was off the rocker. As a matter of
It
fact,
is
Herzog did a documentary called My Pal,
my best fiend.
My Best Fiend. Yeah, he was a whack job, totally off the rocker. Um, Blood on Satan's Claw, which has eventually come out on 4K in another label, but they were the first ones to put Blood on Satan's Claw out. So they go with these single releases, but where they really started getting big and bad, and I said going to the bottom of the barrel, they start coming out with the Blood Island series, which is a bunch of films by a guy named Eddie Romero, who's a Filipino director. And they made these Filipino vampires. I really apologize about this, but
You've left the blood on from last time, I'm afraid, my man. Just
I
if you
know.
if you hold it right to your chest,
Hold it right in front of your chest, Dan. And
Yeah,
open
like,
it.
in front of my chest.
T-shirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
get it
Oh, there
right
we
on
go.
the
There you go.
titties, Dan.
I feel like a ring girl now. There. The other one that came out once again, Blood Islands films, which were like drive-in fodder, but they were putting out 4 discs, Blu-ray, boom, boom, and these are long since out of print. But they really go full strength. We go in there. You've mentioned this before. Everybody has it. Haunts Rich. And then Danza Macabre, for example. These Gothic guitar farms. There's 3 volumes of this, 4 movies. I mean, vast amount of extras and such. But their real forte has been putting out the films of people like Al Adamson, Andy Milligan. These are guys that work with little to no budget. As a matter of fact, Al Adamson's life and his death was more exciting than any of his movies, but he has a special place in most genre people's hearts, whether we were Dracula versus Frankenstein or whatever. And like this box, for example, here, the Al Adamson box set.
That goes for a lot of money now, that box set.
This came out, it was about $140 when it came out, but there's 30 movies on this thing, including the documentary that is about Al Adamson's life. And once again, like we were talking about Spookies before, if you don't watch Spookies, if you watch the documentary by Glenn and Michael, okay, it makes the film more informative and much more palatable because you know the story they're telling. Same as if you watch the Al Adamson documentary on this thing, which is still available to Severn. The box set is long gone. But the documentary, and you get an appreciation of how this guy survived and maneuvered through the world of low-budget film. They've also put out boxes by Ray Dennis Steckler.
That's a great one.
Milligan. They are all out of print. They're coming out of print, but these are worthwhile getting. And and they put out Christopher Lee box set, but they don't get into too many extras. They started doing it lately with the new Russ Meyer films that are coming out. If you buy the super duper $300 and something box set, you get LPs, soundtrack LPs. You get pieces of Russ Meyer's stationery. You get anything. Stuff that's probably been sitting in his office since he died 20 years ago.
They sold out in 10 minutes.
Yep.
So it just shows you people have been waiting 20 years for the Russ Meyer stuff to come back into print.
Now, what we have to realize about boutique labels is that, and I'll cite BFI, I don't maybe mention that, but U.S. Film companies, they don't really do a great bang-em-up job on things. They just put stuff out. Horror of Dracula, when it came out on Warner Archive, yes, nice print, whatever, but BFI had put out a 3-disc set on the Horror of Dracula and Dracula, if I'm not mistaken, I own it, 3 or 4, Region 2.
Yeah.
But they really went
too.
top-notch. Interviews, the whole thing on that. Right, Davey?
No, that was just Hammer, the BFI, were nothing to do with it.
Well, it was just Hammer, but they put out a
Hammer
3-disc set.
Yeah, I mean, it is a 3-disc set, just like Frankenstein. They're both better than the American versions that Warner Archive put out, but hold your horses, folks, because we might be getting some 4K news on both of those next year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about boutique labels, what people don't seem to understand out there, you may spend $150 on a box set. You got 30 films, you got 20 movies in there.
Yeah.
Going to
39 in this box that I have.
Going to conventions, you would spend $25 for a duped
for a
Val
fucking VHS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the stuff you get, it breaks down to peanuts. Now, some people may not have the budget to buy 150, but as they've said earlier about a lot of these companies, they do release them as separates. The Russ Meyer, you can get them separately. Arrow does it. You could get it that way. But if you're really a film buff, and honestly, you got to applaud every boutique label out there because, quite honestly, if it wasn't for the boutique labels, you would not be seeing this stuff. This stuff would be a fond memory or a badly recorded copy of it off a late night television with commercials cut out. The only way you would see it if you want to enrich it. But these keep it alive, and that's why it's important to support them in any way that you can. And the last thing I'll say about it, we talk about boutique language. I got to give a little respect out to a fellow who's no longer with us. His name was the name of Mike Vraney. Mike Vraney was the founder
Something
of
weird.
Something Weird Video, who in reality, when Criterion was out there with a lot of money, if anybody knew Mike, this guy started as a projectionist. He was in like warehouses in New York City, finding these prints of this grindhouse stuff and David Friedman and the last prints in the world. And he started Something Weird Video. So he was a real pioneer in this. Sadly enough, he died, I think, well over 10 years ago. He had cancer.
Yeah.
But he was a real passionate, and that's what these small labels do, is they put passion into what they do. And as long as there's film buffs, this is the best way of keeping this stuff alive. So that's it. Severn, great product. All these labels we have said are excellent. So you cannot go wrong with them.
And kudos to some of these labels who are really showing that passion towards really underground, unknown, and forgotten films. And it's amazing that there is an audience out there for these. There really
Vinegar
is.
Syndrome
Yeah,
put out
but,
taking that in
that's
trade.
part of the thing we're really kind of talking about, isn't it? Is that you buy a few things and then you start to find the identity of the labels. So we know what a Criterion identity is. We know what a Severn identity is. They had a very brief foray into doing some children's movies like the Peanut Butter Solution that didn't take off for Severn. But we know roughly what a Criterion looks like, what a Severn looks like, what a Vinegar Syndrome looks like. And then eventually, because you trust them, you start to take chances on things that if it was just on Pardo Records, you wouldn't think about maybe. But because it's on a company that you've bought, I have bought 10 things from them. 9 of them were really great. I'll take a chance on this. So you take a chance on a one-off TV film from Italy from 1978, thinking, oh well, who cares? And it's closed circuit and it's the best thing you've seen all year. I mean, that happens all the time with Severn or Vinegar Syndrome. Less so Criterion because, as Jamie said, they tend to release stuff from the canon, stuff that you've seen on the Sight and Sound Top 100, that kind of thing. But yeah, Severn are another company that, yeah, they dig up like film prints and then see what they've got, basically, which, yeah, wonderful.
Criterion also does a lot with directors. Like they'll go with certain directors' work, whether it be David Cronenberg and stuff. And that's why I'm wondering, for example, with Pat Garrett and the Billy the Kid coming out on Criterion, I wonder if Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch and these other films are shortly behind it, hopefully.
It's coming out already on 4K.
Okay.
But Wild Bunch is coming out already on 4K. But yeah, they've got so much money. I feel it's hard to root for them so much because they're not a mom and pop. They are just absolutely loaded. Criterion. They pay so much for their stuff. They've got such a massive budget. Whereas when you hear a company like AGFA, which they've recently done, say, hey, we really need your sales guys because we're struggling, they mean it. Criterion, they're not hemorrhaging money. They don't need your cash too badly. Wait for the Barnes and Noble sale. But other companies, Black Friday is coming up. It's a good time to stock up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you've been looking at your email inbox of late, they're all
Yeah, you'd never know. You get one every 5 minutes.
from every one of them. It's crazy.
It's
There's the
Criterion.
Arrow, Vinegar Syndrome.
Vinegar
Severn.
Syndrome has a sale starting tonight in 7 hours.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Amazon's had Criterion on sale. It's only
Yeah.
a matter of time. Everything's going to be,
Yeah, I know.
time to be
All right,
selling
Davey,
money.
over to you.
Okay, look. Well, Dan did mention the BFI then. That's my choice. Because when I looked at my collection, I thought, right, okay, I've got hundreds of arrows. I've got hundreds of 88 films. Probably not hundreds of 88s, but probably nearly 100. I've got well over 100 indicator films. Maybe 100 second sight releases. and great, but they're not as diverse, and I've not been following them for as long because the BFI were probably the first company where I realized this is a boutique label. I'm buying something that's not just a DVD from Columbia or MGM to stick in. This is curated by someone who wants you to see it and who wants you to learn about it and who wants you to watch the special features. So Dan mentioned Criterion being quite old because they're from the 80s. The BFI were founded in 1933, so they're not far off 100 years old. They're a registered charity, and they have a kind of mandate to educate and inform. Very British sounding, isn't it? We must educate and inform about the British film industry. So it's a bit hoity-toity when you say it like that. But then when you see the actual releases, no, it's not at all. Because they will release down and out stuff like the Oblong Box came out recently with Christopher Lee and Vincent, which is kind of part of the post cycle according to some people, but it really isn't. It's never included. But they'll release that next week. They're releasing Vincent Price's cooking show on Blu-ray. I shit you not, folks. If you don't believe me, I've got it coming. Wait till the next episode of Pickups because I'll be talking about Vincent Price cooking
Wow.
fish. Looking forward to it. I'm getting the frying pans ready. They release wonderful new stuff. So, Starvaker, a film that I'm not going to talk about too much because it's a great folk horror that's just out. Because I'm going to be talking about it at the end of the year. And I've been talking to the director of that on Facebook quite a lot. They've released a 1982 lost folk horror called The Outcasts, which is from the writer of Blood and Satan's Claw. So stuff that's just okay, you don't know this, but you know somebody that was involved with it. And we've got hundreds of special features to contextualize it. We've got the big green box full of special features to contextualize it. We've got because another reason I wanted to spotlight them is um, Craig's going for 4K because he's taking the jump, and you can't catch up after 20 years of not doing it. It's just not possible. It costs you a fortune, as Jamie alluded to. Things have gone out of print, and then money just jumps up ridiculous amounts. So catching up isn't possible. So you just kind of start where you start. But out of print things like Redshift, a wonderful, wonderful folk fantasy from the BFI, which came out in the 2000s, only on DVD. So a lot of their stuff is still stuck on DVD. You might need to dig around for it. You might need to add it to your, save for future listings thing on eBay. But if you turn it up, it's well worth it. Great directors like Ken Russell, they've released so much of his stuff, including Gothic, his last great film, which is a great version of the Night at Via Diodati, where Frankenstein was written. It's a kind of horror version of that. One of the best things they've ever released is the Ghost Stories for Christmas, the M.R. James box sets, two of them, which are, I mean, you say that to anybody in the UK, Ghost Stories for Christmas. It's such a tradition over here to have spooky stuff at Christmas. Those are essential. I mean, they've even got stuff like, there's Robin Redbreast. This popped up in the Severn All the Haunts box set, the first one. So they've dug up stuff that now people are going, wow, where's all this obscure stuff coming from? Well, the BFI have been there all along, folks, doing that kind of thing. But this week, they've released The Seven Samurai in 4K. So they're not just about here's the best British TV and British film. They're also about here's something more Criterion-y, if you like. And this is better than the Criterion, it's got better picture quality. So this is a stunning, stunning disc. I stuck it in the other day thinking, I'll check a bit of the picture quality out, and I sat for 3 hours watching the whole of Seven Samurai. Didn't plan to watch more than 5 minutes. Brilliant presentation of a great film. I mean, Louis Buñuel's early stuff, L'Âge d'Or, which has also got Un Chien Andalou on it. If people don't know what Un Chien Andalou is, you do. It's the eyeball being slit with the razor blade. We all know that black and white image.
Salvador
So
Dali.
it's up there with the Georges Méliès, The Moon in the Eye, that kind of thing. Funnily enough, Jamie mentioned Eyes Without a Face. There's Les Yeux en Visage, which same film, different presentation. And what I love about the BFI as well, because they're a charity, because they're a film institute, not just a distributor, they put all sorts of short films in which are related. So they might have a short drama that's on a similar subject. They might have a public information film that's on a subject tangentially related. Or it might just be the director's early works where he was making educational things for schools, but because they're a charity, they can put it out. They don't need to worry too much about licensing and whatnot because they've got the vaults of the BFI, the British Film Institute, behind them. So if it's a feature, yeah, they have to worry about that, but they've got so much in the vaults at the BFI that they can just put out. Great directors like Carl Theodor Dreyer with Vampire, Michael, essential stuff from late silent into early sound cinema. It could go on and on. I mean, who's the most famous? I'd say the most famous British film star of all time is probably top few film stars ever anywhere, and they've got the definitive versions. Charlie Chaplin, the Mutual Years on Blu-ray, and the S&A Years, which are his essential short comedies. These are all the most famous Chaplin stuff from his shorts are in these very ones. Woodfall, the films that kind of defined the British new wave of filmmaking in the 60s, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, Look Back in Anger. Yeah, every time I think of that now, I think of Martin, right? Because he said, how did they come up with that title? What a weird song title. And I'm sitting there going, it's a fucking play by John Osborne, man. Jesus Christ. Just look it up. Jesus. Tom Jones, not the singer. The Knack and How to Get It. Like quintessentially British films of the 60s that took kitchen sink dramas and then evolved into French inspired world cinema and really shows how the film industry blossomed.
Is the Oasis song about that movie?
No, that's Don't Look Back in Anger.
Oh,
Um, 1984 with Peter Cushing, the original TV version of 1984, which Peter Cushing is Winston Smith. Essential stuff. This is not out in America at all, so you need to get the BFI version. Donald Pleasance is in here. The baddie is Andre Morell. So you get to have Peter Cushing and Andre Morell facing off before either one of them have even done a Hammer film. Stunning, absolutely miraculous stuff. Pick a few more. Just The Day the Earth Caught Fire, the Val Guest film. Great sci-fi. So not snooty, snobby, highbrow stuff, but just very intelligent stuff. Someone who I interviewed this year has worked with the BFI quite a lot. Alex Cox. He's got Three Businessmen and Highway Patrolman. Highway Patrolman is one of his most underrated films from 1991. Straight to Hell with Joe Strummer, Shane McGowan, all sorts of rock stars. Courtney Love's in there. Death and Compass. I mean, he's worked with them quite a lot over the years. All sorts of obscure horrors on their Flipside label, from Shalkin the Painter, which is, I mean, it should be about Shalkin, the famous painter of the 18th century, but it's a ghost story as well. It's absolutely sensational. Requiem for a Village, spooky stuff, which is a documentary about a village that turns into a horror film halfway through. The Orchard End Murder, which is indescribable. This stuff that would never be out from a major label who have to worry too much about profits. Because they're a charity, they can subsidize it a little bit, not too dissimilar to the way Criterion can, but not because they're owned by a billionaire, but just because they can justify it in terms of a write-off being a charity. Yeah, just stunning stuff. They've been putting out releases for a million years. I mean, they're coming up for 100 years old, for God's sake. My background behind me is they're building the BFI South Bank, which is, as it implies, right on the river Thames in London, right on the South Bank. They do screenings there all the time. It's a wonderful picture house as well as a wonderful label. They've got their own magazine, which is probably the most famous film magazine in the world, Sight and Sound. It's up there with Film de Cahiers. Yeah, the BFI. They might sometimes be bettered, but overall, their back catalogue cannot be touched.
And they're all region two, though, right? It's all region two, correct? Well,
Yeah,
4K is international, but
I wouldn't want to say all of it, but I'd definitely say the most recent stuff on Blu-ray, definitely, yeah.
well,
But
speaking of, I stand corrected on that horror of Dracula because you know what it was? It was Hammer, but it was a BFI restoration. That's
yes, the BFI also do a lot of restoration work, and then people post online going, "Oh, the BFI are releasing this," but no,
that's right.
they restore it because they've got the facilities, but they don't actually have the rights to put it out. So
Right.
they help restore it to preserve it in their own vaults. So you can go down to London and get a copy if you're a member of the press, for example. You can see the film. They retain a copy of every film that's known to exist that's been made in Britain ever. The lost ones are lost, obviously, but every single film has got some kind of copy in the BFI archives. So what I wouldn't give just to live in there.
Who carries the BFI films as far as buying them, retail wise?
Everybody,
Really?
everybody.
Okay.
You get them in HMV, Amazon. They've got their own shop.
They do have their own shop. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, next week they're releasing Watership Down on 4K. Don't know if that film's very famous in America, but it's a classic over here.
It is.
Ooh, we all love really depressing films about animals getting ripped to shreds.
Rabbits, yeah.
Yeah,
Rabbits being killed.
it's a good laugh. Um, but yeah, that's the BFI for you.
Cool. So to finish this off, the label I chose was when I was kind of looking through my shelves. I probably have the most Blu-rays and 4Ks from this particular label of any of them. And I got so much from this label. And speaking of animals, they also released a Blu-ray of a horror film with rabbits called Night of the Lepus. Of course, I'm talking about Shout Factory slash Scream Factory. So, of course, these guys have been around for about 20 years, a little over 20 years. They're out of Los Angeles. They're actually they're a pretty big success story. They've built up quite the studio over there, and they are out of all of these labels, maybe the closest thing to kind of like mainstream that we get here. They have reissued and re-released a ton of big studio productions, specifically action movies, um, horror, sci-fi, all that sort of thing. And generally speaking, sometimes you get when they launch a new title they'll have like this collector's edition, and maybe you'll get like you can get it with a poster, right? So here I've got this is the Dog Soldiers poster that came with the 4K Return of the Living Dead, right? I haven't even opened these; they're still sitting here. And the I will say some of these other labels may have better looking restorations than they get, but I think that Shout and Scream Factory is kind of the horror version of the Shout Factory line. I think they're generally really, really good. Like I said, you may find a little bit of quality in some other ones, but for the most part, I mean, that's why I keep buying them. They're really, really, really good quality. Great special features and things like that. So you get tons of bonus material on all of them. I picked out a couple. I mean, it's just so hard to pick out ultimate favorites here, but I picked out one that's more recent and an older one, a little collection. So the Creep Show 4K is excellent. I had a nice little Stephen King collection of Blu-ray films that I was like, Space Saver, and they all look really good. But Jamie pretty much sold me on getting this. He's like, you got to get Creep Show on 4K. The movies never look better, and I will agree absolutely. And there is a ton of bonus stuff on here. I haven't even gotten through half of it. There's so much stuff on here. I mean, you literally, I don't know if it was Jamie who mentioned, what do we all do like when we get like a new 4K or Blu-ray set that's got lots of bonus features? Do you watch the film and then sit for another 5 hours watching all the bonus features, or do you save it for another day? I mean, I sat through like maybe a quarter of this, and I spent like 4 hours plus with Creep Show with this disc, and I'm like, Jesus, what do you do? But all looks great, and there's some really cool stuff on here that's not on any other versions, which is awesome.
Did you
So,
get the second slipcase?
no.
I got the second one, and it's flat. It's not folded, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with it?
Yeah,
If I
they
put it
do
on
that.
this, what am I supposed to do with this one?
Yeah, they do that quite a lot. We'll give you a spare alternate one. You think,
I
wow.
just keep it next to it. I keep waiting like to walk by and bend it, but because it sticks out further. But I don't know.
Might be worth something. Remember, don't throw away those slipcases, folks.
There you go.
I just spent
Or,
$80 on one for Hitchcock, basically.
do you know, in a lot of cases,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
studio stuff, it won't make a difference really. But throw away those Vinegar Syndrome ones, you're halving the price straight away.
Yes, yes. Yeah, if you go on their website, you can order with or without, right? And it's like
Yeah.
what's $5, $8, something like that. Sometimes
Yeah,
10.
Hell,
and
a
the,
couple
Then people
times
buy
I
them with the slipcases
accidentally,
and sell the slipcases.
yeah, I was
And
gonna say a
pay for
couple
the film.
times because they sell the slipcases separately. So a
Yeah.
couple times I thought I was buying a movie.
Oh,
I'm like, oh shit, wait, no, this is $8 for the
Oh,
fucking cardboard
It's only,
case. Fuck that, I don't need that.
I mean, they've got that thing, members points or whatever it's called, where you can get out of print slip covers, but they'll put a gold foil stamp on it, and then people can flip it for instead of $20, $120, just
Wow,
because they've got the gold foil stamp on it.
crazy.
I mean, it's not even just, oh, you'll get an extra $10. You can get an extra 100 for something.
when Jamie mentioned about paying $60 for Rosemary's Baby, and it seemed expensive at that time. Honestly, a lot of these companies are putting this stuff out. They are coming in at $50 now.
oh yeah, yeah.
Want to get the first pressing and the whole thing, it's $50 already.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the ordinary. So,
What's your next one, Pete? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I was going to say too, what's really cool about some of these labels is that when you pop the disc in, some of them have their own like original soundtrack music. So when you pop in like a Shout Factor or Scream Factor, when you get the werewolf howl, as soon as you put it in, ooh, like Vinegar Syndrome, you get that funky music that they always play, which I think is awesome. I like they're all identifiable by the music that's
Arrow used to have a great one back until about 2014. The Devil's Playground, I think it was called, and it was just this kind of rockabilly, more like psychobilly kind of thing on top of a montage of some of their stuff. So you'd see like Bub from Day of the Dead giving you the salute, and you'd see like, what's that from? What's that? And then you'd turn it was an Argento film that you maybe hadn't seen, and it was a great way of making you think, I need to get all of these fucking movies.
oh right, yeah, that's what it's all about. Second one here, I decided to go with the first Vincent Price collection, which they released three of them. And again, a great way to get like all of these films in one set. So here we've got Pit and the Pendulum, Mask of the Red Death, Haunted Palace, Witchfinder General, Abominable Dr. Fives, and Fall of the House of Usher, arguably some of his greatest ever films. And they did this in conjunction with MGM. But yeah, Screen Factory, another great set here. The Paul Naschy sets are really, really good. If you're looking to get some of that stuff, you can knock off a whole bunch with those two sets. And then the last one I'll show, again, there's so many others I could have grabbed, but I really, really like this set a lot. And I had never owned this film before. So to get it on 4K right off the bat, John Carpenter's They Live. And, Screen Factory's done a great job with a lot of the John Carpenter stuff. I have quite a few of them, and this one is just absolutely terrific. Not only does the film look great, but man, you've got some great special features and interviews and documentaries on here. Just absolutely amazing. And I will say, Mr. Carpenter should be pretty happy with the work that these guys have done on his films over the years, because you can get most of his filmography on a Scream or Shout Factory disc, and they all look really, really good with a lot of really cool stuff. So
One of my problems with that Vincent Price series that they did is the way they structured it. It was almost forcing you to buy the other ones if you didn't need to, because hey, wait a minute, I've only got one of the Dr. Phibes
I
movies.
know they got one on the other side. No, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
And I've only got half of the Common Pole pictures. So Arrow did the box sets over here, and they just did a Dr. Phibes box set and a Corman Pole
Right.
box set, which makes a lot more sense. But I think they're out of print now. The Scream Factories, aren't they? Or two of them are, and one of them isn't.
I
Something
think
weird
two
like
of them
that.
are, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I paid
which-
a good amount of money for two of them because I
Yeah.
got them like maybe
they repressed the first volume.
yes.
Yeah, they did a limited press, that's right. Would you agree, and this is an outsider because a lot of the stuff that they've done, I don't have that many of theirs because a lot of the stuff that they do, Arrow had over here,
Yes.
or Studio Canal, because a lot of their stuff is Studio Canal, including all the Carpenters. The Scream Factory, yeah, that's kind of cult stuff, but Shout Factory, it's almost so mainstream that most people that buy Shout Factory don't even think it's a label. They're just buying WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah, a
or
lot of vintage television on.
yeah, or Pee Wee's Playhouse or something. It's almost too mainstream.
The
Shout
regular shot stuff is very mainstream. Yeah.
Shout Factory, yeah, but Scream Factory is almost like their cult label to appeal to this kind of demographic. But Shout Factory is a kind of umbrella. They do a lot more mainstream, if you like.
And speaking of them, they have ridiculous Black Friday sales. And it's funny because I know, like, Chris, I can think of so many times over the last couple of years, you'd be like, did you get that email? Did you see the sale coming up? It's just like, and I wound up buying like, like 10, 12 discs. I'm like, because I
On
mean,
with Umbrella or Scream Factory.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so a lot of good stuff. And there's other labels we haven't even, touched upon here. Like, just looking at
Yeah.
Synapse is another really good one. And just
Lorber, Blue Underground.
Blue
And
Underground.
Indicators, 88, Second Sight,
Mondo's great too.
Mondo. The problem I have with Kino Lorber, those fuckers will release anything, absolutely anything. I mean, I get their emails, and it must be 10 things a week at least. Must be.
When they first started a little boutique label, one thing you had to be careful with Kino Lorber is they really weren't doing any restoration on the films.
Yeah, they were crap.
There was only like a handful that said restored, but you had to really look between the lines. Now, mind you, certain American 70s, they specialize in a lot of 70s films. So a lot of these films had never been out and have not been upgraded since. So it's the only way to get them from VHS to maybe Blu-ray. They went to Blu-ray, not even DVD. Things like Busting with the Elliot Gould or Walter Matthau, the Laughing Policeman or the Taking of Pelham 123 and all this stuff. But they didn't restore everything at first. So you really weren't getting a great print, but it's the only way to get
I'm
it.
also not a big fan of them doing the special editions where they just say it's slightly better picture quality. So they've re-released Quatermass recently, and it's just a slight improvement. It's not a 4K. It's just a slight improvement with the same extras. Not a fan. And I didn't like them doing. It's always been a pet peeve. I mentioned it way back in my first Monsters Den. When they released in America Black Sunday, you had to buy the two separate versions, the American version and the European version. Whereas when Arrow did it, you get them both in one set for the same price. That's bullshit. Why would you want separate editions of that? It's so bullshit.
And another label that's kind of like bit the dust, what I understand, is Olive Films. They were bare bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's a couple of places doing Olive blowouts, and then once again these other one that Twilight Time.
Twilight Time folded because Nick unfortunately died of cancer, and he was the guy that ran it, and it was a two-person operation. Him and his wife Julie. He was a real film lover. Sorely missed. Olive were weird because they'd started re-releasing their own stuff with special features and calling it the signature edition, and then that didn't work, and they went out of business. So it is a very lucrative market for some if you get the right fan base, but for some of these labels, they're living hand to mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
They're only a couple of bad decisions away from never hearing from them again, unfortunately.
Well, for all you boutique labels, if you're watching, here's your customers right here. So keep doing what you're doing. We'll keep buying.
Yeah, and enough with the postcards, though, guys. We're fine for the postcards. Just give us $1 off, £2 off, whatever.
Yeah.
Keep the postcards. Keep the poster, actually, a folded up poster. Don't need it.
As you can see, I have rushed to put these on my wall. I've been at Chris Allo's house. He's got tons of these things laying
I
around.
have them on my wall framed.
There's only so much room, It's just like
Yeah, well, like every Arrow box set you buy comes with one. So, I mean, that's, dozens a year.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy. So, anyway, hope everybody watching had some good labels to go check out if you haven't already. There's loads and loads and loads of great releases from all of them. So please go investigate, show them some love. If you love physical product, these are some of the labels that you really should pay attention to. There you go. David's got another poster right there. See, poster's so big we can't even see Davey anymore. See, it's gone.
Yeah, look.
Oh yeah. Anyway.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. For those of you coming to the warehouse in just a couple of weeks, we will be doing a Monsters Den segment at Sea of Tranquility Fall Fest part 2. So stay tuned for that in a couple weeks. Till then, for Chris, for Craig, for Davey, for Dan and Jamie, I am Pete. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Thanks for watching The Monsters Den. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.